Hello everybody and welcome back. Today we are going to be doing a video that I have promised to do for a very long time. It is how to add, or I should say edit, sound fonts on your lightsaber. So, first thing we're going to do here is we're going to access the SD card. So we're using the Crimson Core V2 Baselit since it has the card. Your Proffies, NeoPixel, stuff like that also have the removable card. But for today's video, Crimson Core V2. All right, so first, you're going to want to take your lightsaber apart, typically from the grip section. That's where you'll access the core. So we're going to take this section, set it aside. And you'll see here, there's the SD card. All right. So if you look real close, and I don't think this is going to focus. Focus! All right, so engraved on there, it says lock and open. All right, so we're going to slide this back and see how it pops up. And we just very carefully remove the SD card. All right, and we're going to set this section aside. And then we're going to take a card reader like this one here. This was actually included with my my lightsaber purchase. So we're just going to take this and we're going to put it into a little USB drive, and then we'll plug this into our computer, and we will pick up from there. All right, now that we have the card out, we have it in our USB, we put the USB in the laptop. Now we're going to go to USB drive, in this case it's D, and you're going to see folders 1 through 46 plus a config file. All right, these are your 46 sound fonts, and the config file is not something you really want to mess with right now. We're just working on sound fonts today. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go with folder 39, all right? And in folder 39, which I actually have separated here, but just bear with me. So first of all, before you edit anything, you want to go ahead and make a backup, all right? So whatever font you are editing, you're going to copy and then paste anywhere else on the computer, all right? So in this case, I've already pasted it to my desktop, and you can see all the files are exactly the same in here as they are on the USB over here, okay? So all these files here are the ones that we are going to be editing. So I am going to be using the Spaceballs font that I got from SABER font from Juan Sith, which is one of the many great font creators in the Crimson Dawn group. Cameron Ingalls and is another one. There's a couple other people. Their names escape me right now. But if you're on the Crimson Dawn Facebook group, people post fonts in there all the time. You can search for them. Or just look for websites like SABER font. Now, this is a Baselit SABER, so I'm using the CFX fonts, but I also use these same fonts for my Crimson Dawn NeoPixel. All right, so let's get to it. So over here, you'll see the original sound files, like begin drag, blaster, okay? Now, if we go over here, you'll notice, like, let's go with the blaster. See how this is here? Zoom in for you. See how this says Blaster 1? But in the font over here, it just says Blaster. So this is not going to understand any of this. So what you have to do is you have to rename these files, Blaster, Blaster 2, Blaster 3, Blaster 4, to match the formatting over here. Blaster, parenthesis 1, parenthesis 2, parenthesis 3, parenthesis 4. So you're going to rename these 4 files to overwrite these ones. So you rename them, drag them over here, and replace these 4. All right? So the name of the font is right here. So I'm replacing the Dark Saber font.
The Dark Saber.
All right? So when you switch to font 39, it's going to say the Dark Saber. All right, so what we want to do is, I'm going to zoom back out. And not that far. You don't need to see my wall. Over here, you'll see it says font 1, font 2, font 3, font 4, lock moment. So you could pick any one of these, or you could use all 4 if you want. And I'll get into that in a minute. But I went with font 4.
Lone Star.
All right. So I renamed this from font 4 to font parenthesis 1. Okay. Drag that over, drop it in, replace that. Now, you're going to get into some complicated stuff here. If you look down here at the bottom, see where it says swing H and swing L? That's a lowercase l. So this is high swing and low swing. So the thing knows when the saber's up and the saber's pointed down, it does high and low swings. However, over here on the Lone Star one, you'll notice it says H swing 1 and 2. And going too fast for you. And right here's L swing. So what we need to do to make these work is rename L swing 1 to swing L parenthesis 1. All right, so you follow along. You see in the pattern here? You want to match these files here with the names over here. So when you're done, this is exactly how it should look, just with these fonts here. All right. It gets a little bit more confusing when you have certain ones like here. In, and then further down is, or further up, right there, out. So in is the power down, when the blade comes down. Out is when the blade goes out of the saber. But switching back over here, you'll see that there is a very simple power on and power off. All right. So you have to rename power off to in parentheses 1, and then power on, whichever one of these you want, or you could use all 4. I'll get to that in a second. Power on would then be out, parentheses 1, parentheses 2, 3, and 4, if you want to use more than one power on font. So, getting into the more than one. So you will note here that there is, under swing, there's 1 through 16. But over here, you'll note that there is only 12 swings, all right? Swing fonts. So that's 12 different every time you swing it. So if you want to use all 16 from the new font here, you're going to rename these, okay? Starting off with swing 1, you're going to put that a space and parentheses, all right, and go through and do them all. Also, you can batch do it if you highlight 1 through 16 here, and then go to rename. Rename the first one, swing, space, parenthesis 1, and it will update all other files. Parenthesis 2, parenthesis 3, 4, 5, all the way down. So you can save yourself some time there. Anyway, so say you want to use all 16 of these. So you could do that, and you'll replace the first 12. But font. So you'll see this little file here called font. .font, I should say. So if you open this up in WordPad or Notepad, depending on whatever, you'll see swing L, swing H, and then just swing. So see how it says 1 and then 12? It is telling the saber start with swing 1 and end with swing 12. So if you replace this 12 with a 16, like so, now it will look for all 16 swing files, all right? Same thing with the Clash, Blaster. If the new one has more Blaster deflects or more clashes or whatever than the font that you're replacing, you can edit that number here. If this is too complicated for you, and I'm not going to insult you, I understand that this can be a little intimidating. If this is too much for you, don't do it. Don't even mess with it. Just replace, where were we? swing. Just replace swings 1 through 12 with 1 through 12 over here, okay? And then move on with your life. You don't have to edit that file at all if that scares you. But if you've made a backup, it shouldn't scare you because you can literally just start all over. Now, I will say that what I did with mine, because this is the Spaceballs font, I went a little above and beyond here, okay? So the original one, so I'm going to go back over here. The original one, you'll see, just ends at swing, right? Okay. So going back to mine here, folder 39, you'll notice track 1 and track 2. So I actually added the Spaceballs theme, two different, the ongoing one that plays at different times in the movie, and then the actual opening scene theme song to it. And in order for that to work, if the font does not have a music track, which I've talked about this before, again, you go and you edit this, and you just add this simple line, track, and then for me, I have 2. So track 1, and then comma 2. If you just have 1, it would read like this, 1, comma 1. That way it's only looking for one file. Again, you can see I have all 16 swings, all 16 clashes, etc. But that is how I edited mine. Again, that's just to, if you want to add a track, you just add track equals 1, comma 1 or 1, comma 2, however many music tracks you're adding. But it has to be in a WAV file, okay? What I did was I had an MP3. I went to a free converter online and, convert MP3 to WAV, upload, wait 2 seconds, download, rename it to track parentheses 1, track parentheses 2, and then that was that. All right. So now what we're going to do is zoom back out here. So now when this is done, after you've dragged and dropped the files, renamed them, and make sure everything lined up with the original, okay, everything's in parentheses, make sure you replaced everything. Now what I did to make sure I replaced everything is 8/27/23. That is the date of this video. These are the new files. See the ones that say 2021? Those are the old files. The boot, that's not something that this uses. These 2 things here, it doesn't use, so I didn't replace those. Same thing with the drag. I have a Baselit. It doesn't do the drag, so I'm not replacing that one. Even so, the default drag it'll blend with most fonts, so you don't really have to. If your new font doesn't have it, like the Spaceballs one, then, again, you're fine. But yeah, just check the dates to make sure that you replaced all the files that you need to replace, so on and so forth. So far, I don't think that there's a size limit, because if you look, the full Spaceballs track is 40 megs. And the Lightsaber still works. So I don't think there's a size limit other than, obviously, the size limit of the card. So, all right. Now that this is done, what we're going to do is we're going to put the card back in. So give me a second here. So we put the SD card back in, and then we're going to close this, all right? And we're going to pull it down, all right, towards the speaker, and that locks it in place. Remember? Forward unlocks it, down locks it, all right? So we got that locked back in, and we're going to put our saber back together here, all right? All right, now let me get a blade, and I'll be right back. All right, now we've powered this on, all right? So I'm going to switch to the font. You ready?
Lone Star.
All right, well, you heard it. So there's the font boot up sound. So now we tap this. Oops. There we go, there's the lock up. All right. And so that's track 1. And then this is track 2. And yes, you can use the Saber while the music's playing. Spaceballs! So there we go. I just replaced the Dark Saber font with the Spaceballs font on my Crimson Dawn Crimson Core V2 Baselit Saber. And this is the Invictus, by the way, if you didn't already know. So yeah, so that is how you replace the sound fonts and everything else. So there you go.